Welcome back to the deep dive.
Always exciting to dive into a new number.
Yeah, today we're going deep into the world of life path number 16.
Ah, yes, the sixth
A
day.
pretty unique one. And since you were born on the 16th,
This one's all about you.
exactly. Now, from what I've read about 16, it's not your average life path number, right?
You're telling me.
It seems like there's this mysterious energy surrounding it.
It's true. 16 is a number that hints at a journey.
Oh, what kind of journey?
Well, a journey filled with karmic lessons.
Intense emotions too, right?
Definitely. And maybe even a bit of the unconventional thrown in.
So maybe not always an easy path.
Not always, no, but always a fascinating one.
I like that. So to kick things off, what's the deal with this whole karma thing?
Well, the number 16, it has this powerful connection to karma.
Meaning?
Well, it suggests that for those born on the 16th, their soul.
Okay.
It chose a path of learning through experience.
And often the hard way, right?
Sometimes it can feel that way. But those experiences, as challenging as they can be, they're there for a reason.
They're not just random.
Not at all. They're designed to help you grow spiritually.
It's like the universe is pushing you.
In a way, yes. It's pushing you towards a deeper understanding of yourself.
So 16 is less about like personality quirks
Right.
and more about this deeper like soul journey.
Exactly.
I can dig that. Now, something else I found interesting is that our sources all mention these significant turning points,
Oh, yeah. Turning points are huge for 16s.
like major shifts in careers.
For sure. Or relationships, even.
Even your like core beliefs. roughly.
Absolutely. It's almost like these moments when you're forced to reevaluate everything.
Wow. So how would a 16 experience those kinds of turning points?
Well, you as a 16, you might feel this sudden overwhelming urge to quit a job that no longer fulfills you,
Oh, I've so been there.
or to walk away from a relationship that's been holding you back.
That's a tough one.
Or even, and this can be a big one, to question those beliefs that you've held on to for so long.
The ones you thought were like set in stone.
Exactly. It can feel like everything is falling apart, really chaotic.
This definitely doesn't sound easy.
No, not always. But it's often the universe's way of nudging you back on track.
Back on your true path.
Exactly. 16s are all about forging their own unique path.
And that brings me to another thing our sources talked about.
Yeah.
They describe 16s as often having a unique circle of friends.
They definitely do,
And maybe even an eccentric lifestyle, something that sets them apart from the crowd.
for sure. 16s just operate on a different wavelength than most people.
Like how so?
Well, they're deep thinkers, for one thing,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
and they're often drawn to things like spirituality.
And occult sciences. I saw that pop up a few times.
Definitely. Basically,
Awesome.
anything that delves into the mysteries of life, you know.
So it makes sense that they'd be drawn to people and experiences that are a little outside the mainstream.
Exactly. They need people who challenge them, who get them thinking.
Intellectually, spiritually, all of that.
All of it. So, yeah, for a 16, it's less about fitting in.
And more about finding their tribe.
Exactly. Those people who really get you on a deeper level.
Now let's get into some more specifics about 16 personalities.
Okay, let's do it.
A lot of our sources described 16s as being very analytical,
Analytical for sure.
introspective as well,
Definitely introspective.
and deeply intuitive.
That's a big one.
Like you've got this built-in radar for emotions.
A radar. That's actually a great way to put it.
It can be a superpower for you, especially when it comes to connecting with others on that deeper level.
You're so right. You can sense what other people are feeling sometimes before they even say anything.
Whoa.
And that can be incredibly powerful when
Yeah.
you're building those meaningful relationships.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but I imagine that kind of sensitivity, it can also be overwhelming sometimes, right?
Absolutely. The world can be a pretty emotionally charged place.
Especially these days.
So learning to manage that sensitivity is a huge key for any 16.
Like how? Any tips?
Well, setting boundaries is a big one. It's not about shutting people out.
Building walls.
No, not walls. It's about creating clear lines to protect your own energy and well-being.
Makes sense.
And it's so important for a 16 because, remember, you tend to absorb the emotions of those around you.
It's like that emotional sponge we talked about earlier.
Exactly. So you need to create that safe space for yourself.
A little sanctuary.
Yes, a sanctuary where you can recharge and process things without feeling completely drained.
Without getting overwhelmed by everyone else's stuff.
Exactly. It's about self-preservation.
Now, I'm still a little stuck on this whole karmic debt thing.
Sounds scary, right?
It does. What exactly does it mean for a 16?
Well, think of it this way. Your karmic challenges, They're not punishments.
Oh, good.
They're opportunities
Opportunities for what?
for growth.
Yeah.
It's about learning from your past, from maybe even past lives, and making choices that are in alignment with your soul.
So it's like you're working through stuff on this deeper level.
Exactly. Trying to find a sense of balance of understanding.
That makes a lot more sense. Now, before we move on, I do want to highlight some of the amazing strength that our sources mention for 16s.
Oh yeah, 16s have some incredible strengths.
They mention charm, intuition, spirituality, self-control. That's quite a list.
It is. And when you harness those strengths effectively as a 16, you can do amazing things.
Okay, so there's a flip side to this.
Well, like with any life path number, there are also potential challenges.
So what are some of those pitfalls 16s might encounter?
One is unpredictability.
Mhm.
The path of a 16 is rarely a straight line.
Twists and turns.
Tons, which can be exciting, but also unsettling sometimes.
So embracing the unknown is important.
Absolutely. And learning to adapt. Those are key skills for a 16 to cultivate.
What else?
Well, 16s, because you feel things so deeply, you can be prone to emotional surrender.
Meaning.
You get overwhelmed by your own emotions. It can happen. It's great that you have so much empathy and compassion, but it can be draining if you're not careful.
So it's like finding that balance.
Yes. Navigating the intensity without losing yourself.
That sounds hard.
It can be.
Yeah.
And another potential challenge is stubbornness.
Oh, interesting. I didn't expect that one.
While 16s are usually open-minded, willing to consider other perspectives,
Mhm.
you can also get fixated on your own way of thinking.
Especially when you feel strongly about something, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So learning to be flexible, to detach a little, and to consider other viewpoints is super important.
So it's like a dance. Right.
Yeah. You've got to find that balance.
Now, speaking of different viewpoints, something else that kept popping up in our research was this whole concept of spiritual awakening.
Or a spiritual crisis, yeah.
What exactly does that look like for a 16?
Well, it can take a lot of different forms. It might be a sudden realization, a major life change, or even a period of like really intense emotional turmoil. That sounds rough.
It can be. But it often forces you to confront your deepest fears, your desires, all of that.
Wow, that's deep.
It's a painful process, but often it leads to profound transformation.
Okay, so like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
Yes, it's about pushing you out of your comfort zone and onto a path of authentic growth.
So those moments, they're not something to be afraid of.
Not at all. They're there to teach you, to help you grow.
And to connect with your intuition even more deeply.
Exactly. Now, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any moments in your life that you might consider spiritual awakenings?
Ooh, good question.
Maybe even some that felt like crises.
It definitely makes me think back on certain times in my life, yeah.
Turning points.
Yeah. But I think we should save my personal reflections for another time.
Fair enough. But it's definitely something to think about, right?
Totally. Especially as we continue diving deeper into this 16 journey.
We've still got a lot to uncover.
Like relationships, right?
Relationships, career paths, everything in between. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of life path number 16.
Welcome back.
Now, I'm really curious to see how these 16 traits, the intense emotions, the karmic journey,
Right. Yeah.
how it all plays out in relationships.
Yeah, relationships can be tricky for any life path number.
But especially for a 16, maybe?
Well, they definitely have their own unique set of challenges, that's for sure.
So let's break it down. We talked about this need for a 16 to find that balance between, their spiritual side and their more practical side.
Right, that duality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how that shows up when it comes to love, friendships, family, all of that.
Affects everything, yeah.
What about that emotional radar we talked about?
Oh, yeah, that plays a huge role.
How so?
Well, for a 16, you're not just picking up on what people are saying.
It's more than that.
Way more. You're sensing the energy underneath, like those unspoken needs and all of that.
Whoa, so it's like you can see right through people.
In a way, yes. And that can create these incredibly deep connections with others.
But also lead to some complications, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Especially if you haven't quite mastered those boundaries yet.
Boundaries are a big theme for 16s, huh?
Huge. It's not about shutting people out completely.
No.
It's more about protecting your energy, creating that space for yourself.
Okay, I'm getting that. No, I did notice that a lot of our sources mentioned long-term partnerships being tricky for 16s.
Yeah, they can be.
Why is that?
Well, it's partly because of that need for independence, that alone time.
16s need their space,
They
right?
do. They need to process their experiences, connect with their inner world.
And that can be tough for some partners to understand.
Absolutely. They might see it as a rejection or think that something's wrong.
So it's about finding someone who gets that, right?
Someone who respects your need for solitude and understands that it's not personal.
That you'll come back recharged and ready to connect again.
Exactly. And communication is so important in these situations.
You got to talk it out.
You do.
Mm.
16s sometimes assume that their partner just knows what they're thinking or feeling, but it's not always the case.
That makes sense, given how intuitive you are.
Right. You think everyone picks up on those subtle cues, but they don't.
So you have to be more direct sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. It's about finding that balance between expressing your needs while also giving your partner the space to do the same.
Okay, so communication is key. Now, what about family dynamics?
Oh, family.
Our sources mention that family relationships for 16s can be a source of both deep connection and potential conflict.
That sounds about right.
What's with the conflict? That independent streak clashing with more traditional family expectations.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it.
How so?
Well, remember, 16 is a karmic number, and family relationships are often these catalysts for growth on that journey.
Okay, I'm following.
It's through those close bonds, that shared history, that you really start to work through old patterns, learn important lessons, and ultimately evolve.
So those family ties, even when they're challenging, they're actually opportunities to heal old wounds and create something new.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from those old ways of relating and creating healthier dynamics, both within yourself and within the family system as a whole.
Wow, that's deep.
It is. But yeah, that independent spirit that 16s have, it can lead to some friction.
Especially if your family is like super traditional or set in their ways.
So
Right?
exactly. It's like you're meant to be this catalyst for change.
The one who shakes things up.
Yes. You bring this fresh perspective. But that can be met with resistance, for sure.
So how does a 16 navigate those kinds of situations?
Carefully. It's a delicate balance
Between what?
between honoring your family's traditions and staying true to yourself.
Between pleasing everyone and forging your own path, right?
Yes, it's not easy. You need to be able to communicate clearly, to empathize with those different perspectives, but you also can't lose yourself in the process.
That sounds like a tall order. Now, what about friendships?
Friendships are interesting for 16s.
How's
Well, you tend to attract a unique circle of friends,
people who are a little different?
maybe even a little eccentric,
Yeah.
but they get you. They see you for who you really are.
Because they're on a similar wavelength.
Exactly. They think differently, they challenge you, and they support you on your spiritual journey.
It's like finding your tribe, your soul family, right?
It is. And those friendships, they can be incredibly supportive and transformative.
Okay, I like that. Before we move on from relationships, there's one last thing I want to touch on.
Yeah.
Our sources all emphasize the importance of self-love and acceptance for 16s.
Oh, yeah. That's crucial.
But why? Why is it so important for this particular life path number?
Well, because you're so sensitive and introspective as a 16, you can be really hard on yourself sometimes.
Prone to self-criticism.
Definitely. It's easy to get caught up in those negative thought patterns, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed or out of balance.
So it's like you need to develop this inner voice of compassion.
Yes. You have to become your own best friend,
Yeah.
your biggest cheerleader.
That's a nice way to put it.
And things like mindfulness and meditation, even journaling, can help with that.
It's about being kind to yourself.
Exactly. It's about learning to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, to accept yourself completely, flaws and all.
It's about embracing that duality we talked about, the light and the shadow, and recognizing that it's all part of your journey.
Beautifully said. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Okay, hit me.
How do you think your own life path number influences your relationships?
Ooh, good one.
What patterns have you noticed? What challenges have you faced?
And what strengths have those connections helped you to discover?
Really take some time to reflect on those questions.
Great advice. When we come back, we're getting practical.
Practical, finally.
We'll be exploring career paths for 16s and how those unique traits can translate into success in the material world.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, but now it's time to get practical, right?
Let's talk career and finances.
Yeah, like how do those unique 16 traits actually play out in the world of work and money?
It's interesting, actually, because as a 16, you're not just intuitive, you're analytical too, right?
You've talked about that, yeah.
And both of those sides come into play in your career. 16s aren't just dreamers.
There's a practical side too.
Big time. problem solvers.
So it's about finding a career that, like, feeds your soul,
Absolutely.
but also allows you to, use your brain.
Yes. What are you passionate about, and how can you use your natural talents to make a living?
So what kinds of careers would be a good fit for someone born on the 16th?
Well, we touched on this earlier, but 16s are often drawn to spiritual work,
Like, what? Give me some examples.
like therapy or counseling.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Social work, too.
Mm.
We're teaching. Even spiritual leadership. Anything where you're helping others, guiding them.
Yeah. So using those intuitive gifts to make a difference.
Exactly. 16s have this deep desire to make a positive impact.
To help others, to heal.
Exactly. But of course, not everyone born on the 16th is going to be drawn to those more traditional helping professions.
So what if that's not your thing?
Well, there's also this strong pull towards creativity for 16s.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Writing, music, art, design, filmmaking, anything where you can channel your emotions and insights into something tangible.
So it's not just about helping others directly. It's about creating something that can move people, inspire them.
Exactly, something that reflects your unique vision.
Okay, so we've got helping professions and creative pursuits. What else?
Well, it's important to remember that 16s aren't limited to just those two areas.
Oh, good point.
You can also be super successful in more traditional fields, like, business or finance or even technology.
Really?
Absolutely. It all depends on how you use those analytical skills and that problem-solving ability.
So it's not really about the specific job title.
No. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions and your talents and your values all come together.
And it sounds like 16s have the ability to thrive in a lot of different settings.
They do. They're adaptable, they're quick learners, they can figure things out.
Okay. So lots of career options there.
Now let's talk about finances for a minute.
Money, money, money.
How do 16s tend to approach that whole realm?
Yeah, is there like a 16 money mindset?
It's interesting because while 16s aren't materialistic, you do have this strong sense of responsibility when it comes to money.
Okay, that makes sense.
You prioritize financial security because you understand how important it is to provide for yourself, for your loved ones.
So creating that stable foundation.
Exactly. It's not about chasing wealth for the sake of it. It's about feeling secure.
Feeling safe and stable.
Exactly. And here's where those analytical skills come in handy again.
Oh, yeah. How so?
16s are good at managing money, making plans for the future, investing wisely.
So you can balance those spiritual aspirations, which are so important to you as a 16, with your practical needs.
Right. It's all about that balance.
Which, as we've been saying all along, is key for a 16 to truly thrive in every area of life.
Didn't say it better myself.
Well, as we wrap up our exploration of life path number 16, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Ooh, final thought.
Yeah, a big one. We've talked about so much, those turning points, those karmic lessons, that incredible potential within you as a 16.
It's been quite a journey.
So knowing that your number is all about transformation, about embracing change, what shifts might be on the horizon for you, what opportunities are out there waiting to be discovered.
What steps can you take today to start aligning yourself with your true purpose, both in your personal life and in your work?
Big questions. No easy answers. But that's the beauty of it all, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been just a starting point. Remember that. It's up to each and every one of you to take this information and use it to create the life you're meant to live.
If this piqued your interest and you'd like to go deeper, I encourage you to explore numerology further.
There's a whole world of fascinating insights out there.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into life path number 16. Thank you all for joining us, and until next time, keep diving deep.